Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, I see you again. After last time we talked about the complex sentences. And today we are going to talk about the part of the complex sentences which is called as clauses. There are some outlines for today's discussion. First, the definition of clauses, and the second of the type of clauses. And the third one is the characteristic of independent clauses. And finally, the example of independent clauses. Ignore this one, yeah, right. Okay, so now let's talk about the definition of clauses. What is clauses? So a clause is a combination of words that makes up a sentence. It consists of a subject and a verb or a predicate. And it can also be said that a clause should have at least one subject and one verb, or one predicate. Right. And then there are two types of clauses. The first one is independent or main clause, and the other one is subordinate or dependent clause. So those clauses can compose the complex sentences like what we have already discussed in the previous meeting. And what are the characteristics of independent clauses? So as I mentioned before, clauses should have subject and verb or predicate. And also the independent clauses is also the same thing. Independent clause should have at least one subject, one verb or predicate, and a complete thought. Because it is a complete thought, then it doesn't have any connector. Right, so to make it more understandable, I'll give you some examples. Look at these examples. If you notice, most of the bold words here are the independent clauses. For example, after we reach home, we watch a movie. So which one is the independent clause? Yes, you're right. We watch movie, not after we reach home, yeah? Even though it is all bold. So the independent clause is we watch movie. And the second example is everybody knows the boy who won the best outgoing students award. So the bold word everybody knows the boy is the independent clause. And the third example, my mom asked me to call her as soon as I boarded the bus. My mom asked me to call her is the independent clause. And what about the next example? Which one is the independent clause? Yes, you're right. We saw a monkey snatching a snack from a little boy. That's the independent clause. And the final example, though Malcolm did not find the movie interesting, he stayed until the end of the movie. Yes, the independent clause is he stayed until the end of the movie. So if you notice these types of this type of clauses carefully, I don't think you find problems. I don't think you find difficulties. And so that's what we have already discussed today. Short, but I hope you understand it more clearly. So we already talked about the clauses, and there are two types of clauses, dependent clause and independent clauses. And the characteristic of independent clauses is that it should have subject, it should have verb or predicate, and it is a complete thought. So that's all for today's meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.